Hello everyone.
Hey, how are you? Well, everybody found the new invite, so that's good.
Yes, John sent out an email just now.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to do it. Hopefully, this helps with the time zoning. Or
Yes.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Hello. I never know what the protocol is on these things. Do you say hello, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon? Or do you just stay quiet?
Yeah, sometimes stay quiet.
Yeah.
But see, we are global, so we should say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because who knows?
It just seems so long to say, Good morning, good afternoon, good
That's
evening.
true. I agree.
Hey, Wim, I transferred the host over to you, by the way. I don't know how I got it.
Were
No,
you
but
the
I
first
saw.
one in? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you were the first one in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I was. I joined with PMO admin. I got this password, but I think then probably not right for this meeting. So I changed it, and then I saw it. So I got it, and then it moved to you because you were the only one there. I think you were the first.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you take the hot potato back.
All right. Sounds good.
Oh, I guess we're waiting for the other guys.
I'm waiting for John, I think.
Oh yeah, John's on. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty excited because over the holidays, I kept staying up later and later, and my sleep schedule get all out of whack. And yesterday and today were the first time where I actually got to bed before midnight and woke up before 8. So I'm back to normal Pacific time sleep schedule.
That's nice.
Before that, I was staying up till like 4 or 6 in the morning. So it was really weird. Yeah, I saw you getting online at like, midnight or something.
I'm an early bird, so
yeah.
I'm not even sure Wim sleeps after the years I've known him.
There are two of him. There's a Vim and Vim clone.
I think John is here, I think, because I'm assuming, John, you are PMO admin?
Yeah, sorry, I'm on the both calls right now. I'm on the other one on my phone, telling people they're in the wrong call. Are you logged in as PMO? I guess I was. Okay, stay co-host.
I logged out, but it's better to stay.
Yeah.
It's okay, right?
Hi, John. This is Bala. I just joined.
Okay. Let me check if anybody's on the other call still. Is anybody here still? Yeah, we have Jean-Marie. We have a few people on the other call still.
Okay.
When was this recording automatically, or did it? Or did you have to start the recording?
It started automatically.
It's recorded automatically.
Oh, I'm talking, sorry, I'm on 2 calls. I'm talking about the other call. The one on LFX does record automatically, but, okay. I'm glad I joined that. There were like 10 people over there because people didn't get an invitation really. They got the
All
email
right.
from Lucy, but it's not an invitation and it causes, still 3 people on here. Let me, oh,
So I'm
go ahead and get
I'm
started,
not-
guys. I'm gonna go on mute. And Wim, why don't you just get the ball rolling?
Yeah, we'll start with the administrative stuff, right? So first of all, I think we all thanks for the poll. So this is the result of the voting. Do you see my screen? Yeah. So I think we had 24 participants. So if you look, so the blue is basically it's okay. The red, although the color probably is not right, is maybe, and the yellow or the orange or the yellow is preferably not. I cannot join. So, but if you look at the results, at least from my perspective, so it seems that Tuesday from 8 to 9 a.m. PST seems to be the winner slot. So if we all agree, then I think we should probably start having a second meeting every week on the Tuesday from 8 to 9, besides the Wednesday one from 9 to 10. So that's, so first of all, thanks all for participating. It's really useful because then at least we hope to have a consensus that supports the majority of our people. So there's a few people who cannot, but yeah, if you compare to other slots, so
I already warned my
we should
daughter
make
she's
it
gonna
this.
get up extra early that day, every Tuesday, so that we can leave early.
Yeah, I'll be there from the beginning, John, and then you can because you might be in transit a bit, but yeah, I'll ensure that I'll be there. So yeah, 8 till 9 it is, unless anyone has a major objection. But so that's the administrative part of things. So
Quick
then, yes, yeah.
Sorry. That means we have a Tuesday and then the following day, a Wednesday meeting back to back.
Yes,
Okay, cool.
so it's a bit. Yeah,
I mean, we
Fish, you
can
have
carry
your hand
discussion
up.
over the next day kind of thing.
Yeah, on one hand it's good, and the other hand, yeah. So there's always pros and cons of each of these. But okay, let's take it for now. We can always change, right? If we see that doesn't work.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
Vish,
question
you
I-
had a question.
Yeah. So are the agendas for Tuesday and Wednesday going to be different, with Wednesday being focused on SIG1 release and actually on task at hand, and Tuesday can be something else, or both of them going to be, hey, the Wednesday meeting was not sufficient, so we need 2 working sessions for getting the R1 out the door?
Yeah, so we had a bit of a discussion with John and myself. So our goal is by mid of this month to have a clear plan of release 1. So our idea was that for the time being, so the next weeks, right, the next 2 weeks, basically, we devote all our effort to get that plan cleared out such that we have a good understanding by mid of February. And then I think we can decide whether we do different things on Tuesday than on Wednesday or something like that. But does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So it looks like the Tuesday call is going to be not fully attended. Whereas the Wednesday call, currently we are actually having like about 35 participants. So yeah, seems like that's how it is going to be, I guess. So which means most of the meet that we want to do for R1 and current release, the focus will be in the Wednesday meetings, is what I'm presuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah. We'll have to see. Probably we have to repeat a little bit. So at least do a recap what we have done so far, and then maybe we can take it from there. That's another option. We'll see as we go along. Yeah. All right. Next topic. I think let's look at the agenda, right? So if we look at the agenda, I think we had. Okay, Tal, you're gone. Okay, so someone is editing. So yeah, so basically our goal. I thought that was also on the agenda, but
He had an item there, but he and I talked yesterday, and it was the same as your item, basically.
Okay.
So, we just...
Okay. Fine. Yeah. So basically, what we said is okay. Let's focus on the plan. ISO use case 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I updated the slides a little bit that we were discussing. Where did I do that?
If I can just say, Wim, what we talked about just before this call. So the plan here for us, or so what we're committing to, or I'm committing to, we want to talk through, or the plan for this meeting right now is we'll talk a little bit through just reminders of what we did in the workshop, some of the primitives and components we built. And then I don't know if Steven's here, he had a similar diagram that shows basically the same thing, but in a different view. So we thought we would time box that to like 15 to 20 minutes between Wim's diagram and Steven's diagram if he's here to present it. And then we would start looking at, we believe that the workshop mostly covers use case 1 for the most part, so that we'll start to look at use case 2 and what the gaps are, how we might use those same primitives, and what new primitives we would need. And then later this week, after this conversation, I will, and maybe Wim and other people, but certainly I'm committing to putting together a very simple list of what are the pieces, a list of the pieces, getting more concrete than these diagrams. And then we'll iterate from there. So that's kind of the plan. The idea is that by middle of this month, we have a very concrete, very detailed execution plan to get us to R1. That's the goal. And so this is the path we're taking. So anyway, I'll stop talking now and let you take over.
Yeah. So we thought it might be good. I don't know whether people agree, but basically to do a recap on the details of what we did in the POC so far. I don't know whether you believe it's waste of time or it's a good thing, but we thought it might be good to go through over that, and I go a little bit of the details, what's happening where, in order to then I crystallize a little bit better the discussion on the gaps and what we need to do. So it seems, Fitch, you are okay. So I'm assuming for so let's do that for a little bit and spend, let's say, till half past on that. And I think Steven also has prepared some slides potentially. I don't know whether he's here yet, but I'll start with,
it's more like
this.
It's more like diagram. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, but that's perfect. Yeah, so the idea is to go through that a little bit. So let me start it. So this is the diagram that's also on the README. So everything starts. So when we start deploying it, so with the 5G core topology CR, right? So basically, what that describes at the moment is, at the moment you see a UPF with a set of labels in there. So there are some characteristics, as well as there is information in that CRD that says, for example, N3 is connected to this network, and 4 is connected to this network and stuff like that. So, and that is taken by the free 5GC controller. And what it basically does, it basically takes in that CR together with the UPF class and basically builds a package deployment CR from that controller. And that package deployment controller is containing some information, which is basically being picked up by the package deployment controller, which is doing a fan out of a set of resources. So first of all, in the UPF class, we have a reference to the free 5GC package, which has a set of files that are representing the configuration that the free 5GC UPF needs. So we would have to do something similar for SMF and AMF and stuff like that. And then based on some information, so that, for example, in the free 5GC CR that is there, it will fan out based on the label selector that you select. It will look at the clusters that are available or that we have deployed. So the clusters at the moment are statically put during our Ansible playbook. So we have a set of clusters that we put there. The label selector that is in that that information is then consumed, and based on that, we basically fan out towards various clusters on which that UPF would be deployed, right? And in this drawing, we only draw one, right? But in reality, if you really execute the POC, you actually see that both H1, H2, and region 1 are being consumed. So basically, this picture that you see here is actually in reality 3 times there, but due to the details that we have on this slide or on this drawing, this is not shown. Okay. So basically, what the package deployment controller does, takes the package deployment input, takes that package, and basically creates a new package for each cluster, each workload cluster on which that UPF would or is going to be deployed. Okay, and it takes a set of so all the files or all the information that you have here is KRM, right? So what it also does, it basically adds the cluster context that is here. It adds a UPF deployment KRM in it, but it's empty. So it is basically indicating that a set of resources are there, but not all of them are 100% resolved, or basically what some people call hydrated, right? So for example, UPF deployment is there as a reference, but the information, if you look the output that comes here, UPF deployment is more or less empty. Okay, so that is put in a package, and Porch, which is not drawn here, is actually managing that package deployment. And what you then see is that there is at the moment 2 controllers. They're all getting the watches of this package. So basically the NF injector controller, which is the first one, looks at this and actually sees, hey, the UPF deployment is not yet, let's say, covered or resolved. Please take action. And so what the NF injector controller does, it takes, it looks at the FreeFileGC topology CR that we created in the beginning. It looks at the UPF class that we have, which gives information on the type of the class that deployment is associated with, and then looks at that. And basically what it's going to do is creating, based on the interfaces that are in there, it basically creates a KRM resource, which is an IP allocation, right? And there is an IP allocation for every interface that the UPF needs. And it's basically also creating an allocation for the pools that are required, as well as it basically fills out the details of the UPF deployment based on that information, right? And once he has done that, he basically puts those resources into the package that is owned by Porch, and it basically changes the conditions depending on the status it has. So for example, he is responsible to fill out the parameters of the UPF deployment. So basically, he will say condition of that KRM resource is set to true, meaning it's okay to go to the next stage. Whereas in the IPAM, and there is not one, but there is one per interface. So there is one for N3, one for N4, one for N6, because of the UPF definition. And then there is one for the internet pool on which the APN is being deployed, right? And so that's put into the package. And then Porch is just looking at things and then sees, okay, hey, there are still conditions which are unresolved, right? So the IPAM injector controller sees, hey, there is a set of IPs that are needed, and there is IPs for interface, there is IP for pools. And it basically does something similar that the NF injector does. The difference is that it acts on different resources. So it looks at only at the IP allocations. And once it sees that it needs these things needs to be resolved, it actually reaches out to the central IPAM, but it's packaged in the same. So the controller is both having an injector controller as well as the IPAM backend. So they are both in the same package in the deployment. It basically resolves these IPs, and then the result, once he is done with it, he puts them back into the package and says, I'm done, right? Now at this stage, all of the things are resolved. And what we also have in this package is 2 what we call kept functions. So they are not really controllers, but they are supporting functions. And there are 2 of them that we actually built. One is the UPF IPAM injector. So basically what this guy does, it basically takes the IPs that were allocated and actually updates the UPF deployment package with the actual IPs that the IPAM were allocating. And the second one is a NED, so that we do for Multus. So we basically have that function. It basically looks at all the it looks at the interfaces of the UPF deployment and the IPs, and basically builds an NED file or KRM file for each of the interfaces that were in that package. So, and once this is done, you will see that ports, I will say, okay, all the, so in the kept file that are in that package, you see that all these conditions are resolved. And then someone, typically into our POC, then approves that this is okay. So here we can do the shift level approach and stuff like that, so which we are not showing, but this is basically the hydration process that we have on the management cluster. I don't know whether there are any questions.
Just one question, Wim.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there in this flow, I mean, there are pieces that is common. Basically, we cut across multiple CNFs, right? I mean, for SMF and UPF, probably. Yeah. So probably, I think we can highlight those things, and the other ones that is going to be kind of, I mean, the common building blocks versus something that is network function specific.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I think that would be, because yeah, I mean, that will be a good way to kind of differentiate the control plane as such.
Yeah, so if you were to ask me, where do we have some changes for SMF and so on and so forth, there is, of course, we have to add, but it's there is a provisioning already there to add that SMF here. We would have, there might be some, depending on how we do the CRD, there might be some specifics here. IPAM is generic in my view, and then I think there might be something in here, but not the NED. So only so this is where we have to do the changes potentially for that. Yeah. John, you're next, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's a great question, a great slice of way to look at that. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you know, most of the, I would hope that most of the variance between packages could be between functions could be captured in packages, and that those packages would contain different CRDs, but that the processing for the most part stays the same. I agree with Wim. Probably there might be some
small tweaks,
understanding of what you in NF injector controller and maybe in the kept function, but we should think about what, I guess maybe the main point I want to make is that's a really good question, and I think we should, as we evolve these different components that we've already built, we should think about whether they can be done in a way that's ignorant of the particular network function as much as possible. So that's all.
Yeah, and it's not implemented as such, but it was always the idea to have it generic. But we, during the POC, we did not succeed 100%. But we also have this function config that allows us to do stuff. So our goal was to make it independent. But at the moment, if you look to implementation, I will have to do some changes here. But I think the change we should do is make them, let's say, network function agnostic, so that we can basically do it common between the different types. But okay, yeah.
Right.
Victor, I think you're next.
Yes, thanks, Bim. I just have a one question regarding, I know that somehow all these changes are reflected in the Git repository. So every single, I mean, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but every single change done by the controllers are going to represent a commit in the draft repository created in GitHub or in Git. Is that correct? Like,
yes.
I'm trying to connect these two things.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Can we, I would like, well, we should answer these questions, but we are running low on time. So I just want to make sure Stephen has a chance also to run through his alternate. I mean, it's the same thing, yeah. It's another view, but so I don't know how to handle that. We're just running low on time, but maybe.
My question is quick.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, let's do it.
The NF injector, that's the KPT functions, right?
These are controllers, so this one and this one are implemented as true controllers, if you will, and these are actually kept functions. So I try to indicate it here kept
Oh, I
function,
see,
kept
I see.
function,
Got it.
and,
So
and here it's control.
the context there is that kept functions are sort of little things that maintain internal consistency within the package, or perform some transformation within the package, maybe with some inputs from the outside world, but they don't reach out to other systems. Whereas like the IPAM injector controller actually reaches out to another system and allocates something, right? So, and the NF
Yeah.
injector controller, yeah, so that's kind of a distinction.
And the NF injector controller, how does that interact with KPT? Or does it?
So what it interacts with Porch basically. So basically,
okay.
what happens is there's a watch to the package, and then it sees is there a condition not set, and then based on that it will do some work. If all the conditions, if his condition is okay,
Got
it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I was just confused about KPT and NF injection. Thank you.
Ravi?
It's just a quick comment because we are short of time. I think just for people because for us when we see this picture, for us it's understandable, but it's good to kind of give a little bit more kind of higher level system level diagram of basically saying that okay, there are service level blocks and there's UPF based functions or controllers. It's basically kind of coming from that picture that we have in the wiki pages, and taking that system and saying that what else are we adding to that system. In that we have kept Porch and all that. I think controllers is simply like one block or something. So I mean just kind of expand that out. That will be a good thing, and then showing this, people can relate to that the overall system architecture then. Otherwise this might be just too much for too much to digest. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but this was just internal here, so yeah, but okay, yeah, I take your point. Yeah.
Sure, thank you.
Bala?
Yeah, I agree with Ravi. I was thinking, yes, a bit of explanation rather than diagram. Whatever you explained, Wim, maybe a 1 or 2 pager, that would be great for everyone. I think John has done it maybe in the lab GitHub pages. Probably we can improve, augment that one and that one.
Extract,
yeah. So on Ravi's question, the original questions of this specific components for a specific network function. I was thinking here, obviously IPAM is a very generic dependency for almost all the network functions, but there are 10, 12 different network functions in 5GC. So they may have some other dependencies, which is very specific to a particular network function. That is something that is something I was trying to refer to Ravi's question of specific versus generic.
Yeah, and that's something we have to deal out with these use cases, right? So figure out during these use cases. So our goal here during the POC was to make these things as generic as we can, so that we don't have to do too much modifications of it. Of course, UPF deployment is UPF deployment. We probably have an SMF deployment and an AMF deployment, but probably the structure of it are similar. They have probably a few different components. So our goal was always to make these as generic as possible, that we have as little dependencies. But I think this will, our use cases will make that clearer and clearer, right?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, this is very helpful. So a question that I kept having. So we're still setting. So I understand this is what we have now, but we're still setting the IPAM allocation in the level of packages, of reconfiguring packages, correct?
So IPAM is one step in when we hydrate this package. So we need an IP. So it's one of the steps that is happening during the hydration process. So that's what is there. But so IPAM is a contributor to it. It's not the only contributor. But so what we are doing actually is we are hydrating it, the package. But so the IPAM basically, so the NF injector actually creates an IP allocation KRM, which is never applied to the cluster. It's not applied to the cluster. And then the IPAM picks that up and looks at the labels and basically does an IP allocation And the IPAM is pre-configured at the moment with a set of IP addresses that we do in the Ansible playbook. And these labels are resolved during that process. And the result of it is injected back into the IPAM allocation and status. And that's what's happened. But the IP allocation KRM is never applied to the cluster. So you never see, if you go and look at a KRM object for IP allocation, you don't see it. Does that make sense?
Mostly, I think. But is that how we want to keep it? Because this diagram shows everything that we've shifted to the left, basically. But I wonder what is remained on the right. What is remained that's dynamically allocated at the workload cluster level, right? Because I think IP addresses should be there rather than in the early configuration.
Yeah, so I think that you can also do some there, right? There may be some IP addresses that need to be done left and some that need to be done right. In the workshop, what was done in the right still is that what comes out of this process is this UPF deployment record. There's no Kubernetes deployment resource. There's no config map resource. That UPF deployment gets applied down on the workload cluster, and there's an operator running on the workload cluster that reads that UPF deployment and that image config, which basically is just a pointer to the registry. And it generates a Kubernetes deployment, and it generates a free 5GC UPF config map. So those are the things that in this particular use case are still rendered on the right-hand side, meaning the workload cluster. But I think every single vendor's network function is going to have different needs around what gets generated left and what gets generated right. And so we need to be able to support all of those things. So we're trying to demonstrate.
Right. Yeah. I think I do understand that. So I'm going back to Bala's comment about, we're really showing a very specific thing here. And I wonder how much for R1 we really want to showcase some aspects that are on the right rather than on the left. I mean, we don't have a lot of time. So in a way, we're just extending what we have, right?
Yeah. No, we'll do both for sure. But I think probably we should get to Stephen's. We're already over time on this, so maybe give Stephen 5 minutes or so, and then we can jump into the R1 and R2, or use case 1 and use case 2.
Really quick thing before Stephen starts. We're scoping R1 to AMF, UPF, and SMF only, right? Or are we?
Yes.
Looking at, okay.
Yes,
Thanks.
Stephen, I hope you can share.
Yep, coming up.
We probably have to make him co-host. Or can you share? Does it work?
Oh, wow, cool. I can share even just tabs and stuff. That's an improvement.
We see you.
Can you see it?
It's black.
It's black.
So black.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, now, it's there.
That is an improvement from the last time I did a POC. Okay, so this is strikingly similar to what Vin did, obviously. So the only thing that the way I want to present this, obviously, is we are finally going to talk about our long promised Google Seed code. So sometime this month, since today is the 1st of February, sometime this month, hopefully sooner rather than later. To be honest, we are more gated by the legal process than anything right now. We are going to seed some of the Google code, which will be pretty much in line with what we've done on ONE Summit. So this is how it works on the whole thing. This is not what we say that R1's supposed to be designed like this. But then, given that, at least between John, Vin, me, and many others that have participated on the ONE Summit workshop, we are looking more for an evolutions from that work for R1. So this is more like talking about how the Google Seed code would be able to be integrated into that model. So in terms of legends, the red boxes are the code that we're going to seed sometime this month, as we said. The blue boxes are things that are open source community. We'll get it either from, say, Porch repos or some other repository like IPAM coming from Vim in this case. And then the green things are things that will be built as part of the Nephew repo. Well, I mean, the Google seed code will Nephew repo, but then the green things are not built. It's not part of the seed that we'll have to build or leverage from our OEN Summit pieces that will be available as part of the integrations for hopefully R1 if we finalize on the design. I'm going to release a document to talk about a little bit about what the numbers are. Basically, it's the workflow that Wim sort of explained, but some of the boxes have changed because, for one thing, Porch has kind of advanced. So we, instead of the package deployment controller, for example, that we have in the ONE Summit, right now there's something that is more not as tightly coupled as Nephew, more generic ones coming from Porch. We also kind of renamed some of the things from 5G core topology to NF topology. So we can, again, I'll have a document of the numbers, but the workflow is exactly the same here. We are also going to publish a document on the CLDs, by the way. So the seed code that we'll have sometime this month will conform to those CLDs. Again, it didn't really change much. We have a UPF class, SMF class, likely an AMF class moving forward. The NF topology is a high-level CLDs that for those who actually participated or work on the workshops, this is a high-level view of. So we still breaking down CLDs in two personas. One side is the network architects, network designers that will be giving very high-level intent of how they want to deploy the entire network, if we will, or a regional network, if we will, that consists of a number of network functions. Each of that instance get fanned out. That's more like the box 2 over here, and well, N3A, or 3 N3A, where the fan out happens where each of the instances would have corresponding packages out of the deployment repos. The deployment repos is one per edge clusters. When that happens, you have a generic package for every single deployment repo on the draft branch. So they're not committed yet. During that time, the injection controller, which is kind of a catch-all right now, that could be multiple boxes moving forward. So the idea here is because the NF topology has specified several parameters, such as what clusters this is going to be deployed, and what vendor and what versions this is going to be. Actually, package reference is what we use back into ONE Summit. That information allows us to understanding what vendor packages we have to actually download, including the operator. That's actually being done right now by dependency controllers, which could be done by Porch, could be done by us. There is going to be some custom logics, even if it's going to come in from Porch. So the workflow would be, so Wim has already explained the workflow. So the fan out process is when you are creating all the per instance deployment packages. Right now it's just one, because the package reference is actually in the topology CLD. When the dependencies controller kicks in, all that one package dependencies will be influenced by what is being said on the NF topology. So that would be the cluster informations that we are getting every time we created a new edge clusters. The information about that cluster will be registered with the management cluster. So Nephew has reference and information about what the edge clusters is. For example, if it's a EKS versus a GKE versus some other things, correspondingly, we'll be downloading a platform package, or maybe more than one, that are required for these network functions to run. This is the infrastructure piece. For instance, if you have a network fabric that you have to set VLANs on, that thing would be downloaded. We actually do expect something that we didn't do right, honestly, on the ONE Summit. We expect that to work now is something like an NAD has an influence from network functions. So we also sort of have to have a network function vendor specific CAP functions that would be influencing what CNI you're going to use. And then, for example, for this particular UPF class, if you give me two N6 interfaces, me as a free 5GC, I can support two. So my endpoints would basically just be on one secondary interface. But then other vendors may actually be able to do two. So those CAP functions will be, again, a catch-all from injector. Some CAP functions get loaded based on the vendor and version information that would be kicking in, and then they would be populated, then informations. Because unless that get populated, the IPAM doesn't get injected yet. The IPAM conditions, the IP address requirement conditions will be set after you actually kind of realize for this particular vendor, how many actual interface do you actually need? Go ahead, Vin.
Yeah, I was wondering, is that should it be a function or should it be part of the design?
I would like to give people a freedom to, if a vendor wants to write a controller, it's up to them. Yeah.
Yes, but is it not better that we define that in the topology to say this implementation, you have to basically put these two into it rather than trying to delegate to the file. We have to look at the details.
But that's still dynamic, right?
I think we need to have the flexibility, but I would hope, I just put this in the chat too. Like, I would hope that we could actually come up with a way that the vendor package could sort of advertise, here are my requirements, and I think Cal has similar thoughts. And then we could decide how to satisfy them without having to write the code, But I think that it's really good to have the escape hatch of the ability to write code when you can't meet it with the underlying primitive. So I don't think we should get hung up on that. I think let's try to.
Yeah, sure.
We should give freedom to anything that could be packaged inside. If the data is all we need, that's great. Or cap functions, or even the entire controller from vendors.
There should be those tools available to people. Hopefully we can make it so they don't need to use the hard ones, and they get to only use the easy. So I think we're over time on what we.
Sorry.
So
I'm going to publish this document and talk about what the bullet points are, and then as we said, we're gonna publish the CLE document latest next week, to be honest, and then we're gonna see the code sometime this month. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Yeah, I think So from my perspective, I think even the CRDs would be useful just to have the concept of the CRDs without the code, because that would help us already look at how to consume them potentially, at least. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Is that possible? I don't know.
This is great. I mean, like we requested for this one too. If you could write a 1 or 2 pager explaining the steps, that would be great for consumption from anyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
I'll share back. Right.
Quick question, really quick.
Yeah.
The KPT function, do you expect for different vendor to write their own to support their package?
Well, that's kind of what we were saying. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what we talked about.
Maybe. Okay.
We would hope to build KPT functions in general. The principle, just sort of like in philosophically, should not be written in a package specific way. They should be written in a resource oriented way. So like, I don't want to write one for a specific package. I want to write one that understands Kubernetes deployments and how to modify them in a consistent way, or pairs of resources, deployments and services that have a connection between each other. So then they can be reused across many packages. That's the philosophy. The reality when the rubber meets the road is sometimes you need to do something really special in your really special case, and that's a tool at your disposal.
So I understood that part. So if I am a vendor and I have special need because I'm special, right? I have a KPT function that can be packaged as part of the deployment until it gets to the workload cluster, right? And then from there, it get invoked or some similar mechanism.
So typically, well,
we can take it offline.
Let's take that offline. That's a very detailed discussion. Very deep discussion.
Yeah, I think our goal for release 1 should to make it as generic as we can, right? So that we can reuse, and then if there is specific needs, we have to probably see where we hook them in. But I think it's too detailed for release 1. I think at the moment.
R1 is more of a demonstration of what certain things can do. But maybe between AMF, UPF, and SMF, we'll do like slightly different models just to show the different path to go.
Okay, so you see my screen again?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so basically our goal was, so first of all, I made the reference here of SIG 1, the use case document for people that are not familiar. There's much more details in it. What we wanted to do next is actually two things, but first discuss more the how and then the gaps. Now for use case 1, probably the how is probably less relevant because we are doing most of that already. But I think what is also important is that in order to identify the gaps going forward, I mainly then looking at use case 2, 3, and 4, it's important that we first agree on how we would achieve that. And based on that, we probably can then relate to it. So I don't know. So this is the slide. I think Ravi added a few things. Maybe we should start with use case 1 and try to at least start with identifying the gaps that we have here, right? So, or maybe first discuss the how. At least from my perspective, it would be we have to deploy AMF, SMF, UPF, connect them together so they should communicate, and we should actually set up a call, right? Or actually have an attach through it. I think that is, in my view, what the objective is here, is that we have AMF, SMF, UPF running, and we can set up a call, which means that what is clearly missing at the moment, so my slides were a bit out of order, is so UPF, we have an issue right now with the dependency. I don't know, Steven, who would look, are you still looking at that, or is someone looking at that on how to resolve that?
This is obviously a bug in my code, so I'll look into that.
Yeah, okay. If I'll put your name, because for SMF and AMF, I had 2 volunteers. So I think you volunteered for SMF, and AMF, I think Vishal and Ronak, you volunteered.
Yeah, no, actually, Saga from OAI is actually volunteer for AMF also. So given the SMF should become involved, maybe I was just asking the Capgemini guys, I guess, right?
Yeah, Capgemini.
To see if they, because there's 3 people. There are 3 people, so it would be nice if
Stephen, Videsh from Capgemini here. We will confirm you whether people are 2 people we are contributing on AMF.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, at least we have some coverage now. Yeah, so basically, I don't know how much we have to discuss. Of course, the question here is the test tool. So I think we are going to use Free5GC. One open point, of course, is what mechanism are we going to use to set up the attach? Because we need a tool probably for that. I don't know whether anyone has any view of or could look at that, what we would use or come up with a proposal.
I mean, Free5GC itself has a year and sim, right? So
okay, so we can use that. So the idea is to use that. I think Sagar, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, it's correct. Don't worry about that. Yeah, for the testing part, I propose that we can have like the simulated UV and the GNodeB from OAI.
Yes.
But I mean, we can also deploy it via Nephew, but in that case, we cannot use this 5G core topology, you know. So either we need to come up with a different topology, or we just deploy it on Kubernetes just for
for UE simulation, it's okay to not be deployed by Nephew. It's just a test. So there's also UE ran sim that we're thinking of using, because that one is proven to work with the setup we have. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice, absolutely, to look at other options.
Sure. I mean, I'm just proposing, even UE ran sim works perfectly well. We use that too.
Yeah, but will it be done by R1, or is this beyond R1 plus?
It's a bit of a stretch goal, I would say. The deliberate choice of AMF, UPF, and SMF is the fact that should be enough for you to set up a 5G call. But then, in terms of network topology, making sure everything is going through, we would like to see that happening for sure for R1. Right now, because of the timeline, we will probably like stretch go. a little bit, but then you know we'll thrive to try to make sure that we can get a call through. That would be nice. We're good to see that happening.
Yeah,
But,
getting a call through, but not necessarily using Nephew to deploy UE.
Oh no, so that one is not a big deal at all. Yeah, it's a simulator.
No.
Okay.
We need a simulator, I think, not the deployment. We need a simulator.
Yeah,
I
it doesn't
think,
even have to be a
I'll write it
Kubernetes
down.
thing. Yeah, simulator. Yeah.
No,
No, even the free 5G implementation, I think if you want to do an end-to-end kind of a call flow from the UE into the internet and back, they assume the whole 5G core functions are there, right? You have your UDM, UDR, and all the registry functions for UE management and all that. Have you tried it, Stephen, at your end, just trying with the AMF and SMF and the UPF? Because these are implementation, unless you change the implementation, right? I'm not sure the attached procedure would go through.
I don't think we've tried.
Maybe we can take an action to basically. We need someone to own this probably, who is going to help us set this up, right? And get through it. So we will identify the names probably after that. Is that okay? I think what is clear, we need a simulator and to prove that, right?
Yeah, no, I've played it. I've done with free 5GC, but it required the whole RAN and in the code part.
So I've
not
seen.
sure
So in theory, you may need the, well, you don't need the whole RAN. So you may need the entire 5G core.
Yeah, exactly. RAN means
there are some config things that I've seen online where you can you only need AMF, SNF, and UPF. But then if we have to spin the other things, we can just kind of do it on a complete shift left option. I'll just load it on as regular manifest, which is fine. If we actually want to get that through. Again, let's do it step by step.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to understand if you have tried it at your end, probably it might work. Because ultimately, it's if you put that config from somewhere that's expecting from the other UE management functions, then that's all matters to them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. There's one more issue that is here, I think, which has to do with this, Ravi. And I actually have a PR open. So at the moment in our Ansible playbooks, we basically took a bit of a shortcut in terms of deploying. So we deploy the network and the IP ranges, but we take one IP pool or one range for all the clusters, which is probably not correct because it means that you need a layer 2 broadcast between all the clusters. I'm going to create some slides for the next meeting on Tuesday, so I'll probably discuss that a little bit. What is the change? I did the change already, and I think there might be an implication, Stephen, on the NF deploy or the topology CR to see how that works together. So we need to discuss that, but I can at least present what the issue is and how I am proposing to resolve it for the use case one, so that we have.
I mean, what we propose is not final. Obviously, we have to iterate.
No, for sure.
Yeah, I was a little bit. I was not feeling well over the last week, so I think you asked me to test something. I can test that out, but I think I also need to understand how do we kind of right now, if I have a setup, I need to see how I could get some of the changes that you might be do at the controller, get the new code in. I'm not sure about that cycle as well. Probably I need to see how to close the loop from your end.
Yeah, the first change you can do is without any code change.
Okay.
There's no change at all. So just updating the CR and that's it. Okay. This is just to prove that what I think is right.
Okay, I'll try it. I'll give it a shot. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I think for now, I mean, is there anything for use case one for now that we have to look at? So the main gaps we have probably is this, and then look at the SIG. So what we get from the Google and try to get feedback on that, right?
One question I had, I know that it's come up, and I guess this is a question for Stephen probably. You told me there's, and I know you and Wim were talking about it too, there's some issue around VLAN tagging in like free 5GC, do we want to, so free 5GC itself doesn't do tagging, I guess. So the question, as I understood it, was, do we need to implement
there's some possible
it-
solutions for this.
well,
Obviously, you
just
can
let me
tag
finish,
using.
yeah. Just so other people have context, because you and I have talked.
Yeah. So Wim and I talk about a little bit on whether or not because we want traffic isolations, obviously coming from different secondary interfaces off to the simulated WAN link, if you will, between clusters. So you can tag using the Docker switch. That's one way. I haven't tried it, but it is possible to also tag on the Mac VLAN CNI.
Okay, so the question would be, what do we need? Do we need a component? I think Tal has talked about this. Do we need a component sitting on the workload cluster that understands how to set up a VLAN?
Yes, so we would like to see that happening. Yeah.
Plumb it into the, right?
That's more like a Nepio cloud platform package that would come in and basically.
Okay, so that may be something we're missing, Wim, in our current workshop. We don't have anything like that. Right? We have CNI.
Yeah, so let me, I think, so there is multiple ways to solve it. I did a bunch of changes to the Ansible. I'll do a presentation on Tuesday. I'll present it. Probably it will be way clearer what we need to resolve. Okay, because it's a rather complicated. I think it's a complicated topic.
I mean, 6.3 also needs to talk about what kind of network topology we're gonna be creating for that testbed. Because Vim presented container labs, and then we'll try to take advantage of that, and then. But anyway, that's not for this.
So basically, what I'm proposing is basically every cluster is its own layer 3 network, and you do routing between the clusters. That's I think what real life would. Yeah,
that would be the real life scenario. Correct. Yeah.
And that's what I'm proposing here, basically.
Okay.
And we are so close from there. So it's like the only thing that we're missing is how do we map to a certain network and get the assignment. And one of the things that we can do if we don't have VLANs is we can just plumb an interface, a V pair into the kind cluster. That's what I'm doing right now with the playbook. So instead of using a VLAN, I'm using Ethernet 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of emulating the VLAN, if you will. Okay, it's not a VLAN ID, but it's basically an identifier of something. And then because it helps, otherwise you need to have other components to create VLANs just for the sake of creating VLANs. So I think it's more important to have an ID that represents
let me research
interface.
Research a little bit on see when that VLAN can tag, because I know SRIOV for sure, the CNI tags it, because it doesn't even go through kernel, right, for SRIOV. So we'll see.
Okay, but I'll present something. Yes.
Yes, can I have a question? Just for the target cluster, so do we still keep GCP as the only target for R1? What is your vision on that?
So the target
I think we have to test. Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry, I'll go through my opinion on there. So let's differentiate between what Nepio can do and what our test bed is.
Sure.
Right now, actually, we're doing kind clusters in our POC. I would like for us. I don't want to build anything into Nepio that's gonna be aware of what that target cluster is. It's going to need to know, like, does it meet the requirements of the network function? So I guess I would leave it to SIG3 to say what the test bed's going to be. I think that right now the team did put together post workshop. The team worked hard, and actually now you can run it on any VM. So we don't need to do it in GCP today already. So I think that we're well along the way to that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So no, I mean, I guess the short answer is no.
No, and I was just going to say today there was some questions. They were deploying on Azure. I've deployed on locally. I think Vish, did you deploy on the Red Hat infrastructure, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Fedora.
Fedora. Yeah.
And RHEL.
So in other words, I think the deployment is agnostic to the underlying infrastructure, because we just create a VM and then we do whatever we want in that, and that VM can be anything, as long as you have certain CPU and memory and disk.
Yeah, for the SMF, I was able to bring it up on an Ubuntu VM running on my laptop. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we are running out of time as expected. So I will do a presentation on this topic on Tuesday, if you don't mind. What we have to do next, I think, because I think use case 1, I think we probably have pretty good understanding of. What I think we need to do is, my point of view is, if you look to use case 2, and I would propose that on Tuesday we focus on that, is that we focus on how we would achieve that based on what we already, based on what Stephen and myself presented on what we have done so far, how this would be accomplished and what pieces we are missing. So that's basically the discussion we would like to have starting on Tuesday, to actually then figure out where are the gaps, how we would do it, and so on and so forth. And then once we have use case 2 covered, we do the same for 3, and we do the same for 4. And hopefully within the next 2 weeks, the goal is to have then all the details sorted out, and we can have a plan in place with people owning certain pieces. And then we are focusing on implementation, and then we can do divide and conquer. Does that make sense? Or sounds like a plan?
Sounds awesome.
Great.
So I would welcome people to look, based on what we have discussed, see how we would achieve 2, 3, and 4. And then we can start looking at the gaps and the game plan for those. All right.
So will we have a project plan similar to how we had tasks for workshops?
Yeah.
So that, okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know I'm meeting.
In 2 weeks. I want to be there in 2
Awesome.
weeks. I don't know if it's feasible, but we'll have a start of it in 2 weeks. I get as much as, yes, we need to
Cool.
do
Let
that.
us know if you need us to review any of that and give feedback and stuff like that.
It's all going to be out in the public. Like I'm gonna
Yeah.
write something and I'm gonna publish it. I'll send it to the mailing list and comment away. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
Okay.
Great, guys.
One more question.
And
Yeah,
Mr.
really quick. For the SMF, I will, document what Stephen and I had put together for the ONE and then put it out there as a starting point. Does that make sense?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank
And people, please contribute. And yeah, if you have info, please share. And we are happy to have people support. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
That's Tuesday or tomorrow. TSC.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Progress.
We are trying.
I know. I'll talk to you on Slack. I to be honest, me tackling SMF is a lot. I'm hoping to pull in some more contributors.
For sure. Yeah, we can help for sure. Yeah, we have to deal with that. Yeah. Cheers.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Just bye.